Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Today we're going to be talking some more about my friend, the planet Saturn. So, the thing about human beings, and when it comes to spirituality, and when it comes to world events, is that even if humans don't have a psychic vision about what is coming, they will intuit what is coming. And this has been happening over and over again. I just watched a movie, not on Netflix, but on Amazon, which was just before the pandemic, and it was heralding what was really going on with the pandemic, which of course I can't talk about here on the Trusted News Initiative. I gave David Icke and his followers a really hard time. Just to be clear, David Icke still is... He's got a lot of stuff wrong, but his intuition is right. When he talks about the Saturn moon matrix, when he talks about the matrix, when he talks about reptilians, his intuition is right. His interpretation of all of that is not. But his intuition is right. And I gave people a lot of grief about people who wanted to escape the matrix, people who wanted to talk about the Saturn moon matrix, who wanted to talk about the reptilian conspiracy. I gave people a hard time about that until I saw what was really going on in the world, where we have what we have going on now, which is we have a corporatocracy that has taken over the nations of the world, the governments of the world, all of the information streams, including YouTube, as well as the media and big tech. And they are they're making unprecedented amounts of money. The top 1% has doubled their income over the last year. And we're talking people who already make tens of billions of dollars are making, double what they were making before the pandemic. So you can fill in the blanks about what I'm not saying. But what we do need to talk about is the role that Saturn is about to play in what is happening. So Saturn, the planet, in case you want to know more about the planet Saturn, Saturn is responsible for karma, for judgment, actually Saturn is probably more responsible for people's success than any other planet. Saturn is also responsible for people's misery, perhaps more than any other planet. Saturn is seen as a planet of misery, but that is because when Saturn is working for you, you don't pay attention to it. When the law works for you, you don't pay attention to it. If you have an uncle who's a judge and they are pulling strings behind the curtains to make sure that you go to school and you're okay and you get out of jail and you get out of a ticket, you don't think about that. You only think about Saturn when Saturn has decided to bring his gavel down and force you to pay for your actions. Then all of a sudden Saturn becomes really important. And then you only think about Saturn when he's bringing discomfort and misery to you. The rest of the time you don't think about it. So what this creates, it creates a very interesting dynamic where those who are benefiting from Saturn have done the work and or they've done the time. They've done their karma either because they've worked for it or because they had to pay for some of their actions either in this life or previous lives, and Saturn is working for them. And then there are people who are just getting called in to face the judge. And so you're going to have people who are going to either be complaining about Saturn or people who aren't going to be mentioning him at all. People that aren't mentioning him are the people who are benefiting from him. And the thing is, Saturn, unlike, say, Jupiter, the planet of spirituality, Jupiter is like Santa Claus. So when Jupiter brings you a gift, he wraps it up very nicely and he hands it to you and he gives you a big hug and a kiss and he says, "You're so great. I'm so proud of you. Here's this beautiful gift." Saturn just, does his thing to make sure that everything works in your life, and he's not interested in getting any kudos from you. Saturn is a planet that in the beginning of life, generally speaking, tends to be very challenging. So if you have past life issues, or if you have challenges that you have chosen to have brought into your life, Saturn in the first part of your life is going to make you work for whatever you're going to end up getting later. If there are people who perhaps come into life with a lot of, quote, positive karma, they come into life privileged, they come into life with a lot of money, they come into a life with something that makes life easy for them, they're good looking, they're a good talker, something that they don't really have to work all that hard and life seems to open up for them. If those people don't spend a lot of time focusing on their integrity and paying attention to what's going to happen with their actions, then when it comes time to pay the bill, they're going to be quite upset. This is where we're heading into. What has happened is that the forces behind the scenes of world events have done an extremely good job of staying hidden. The illusion that we live in the Western world in a place of high, first world, highly technical, freedom, democratic countries, that illusion is beginning to fade rapidly. And more people are beginning to wake up and realize that they don't have the power that they had, that their ability that their votes in elections don't really count for a whole heck of a lot. And that the laws that they thought that were governing their freedom can be changed at the drop of a hat, if it suits those who are actually responsible for the kind of society that we live in. Again, I'm hesitating because I have to stay Disney enough to not get shut down by the Trusted News Initiative here. Those forces, I believe, are going to run into Saturn's gavel. We have Saturn in the sign of Capricorn right now. And in fact, let me take a look and see who else is in Capricorn at the moment. Sorry, let me set up my scenario here. Let's take a look and see who else is in the sign of Capricorn with Saturn. Because what is going to happen, I believe, is that Saturn is going to bring people's debts. Payment is now due for your debts. For those who have been holding on to their integrity and working hard, you are going to be rewarded. For those who have been avoiding, more specifically, those who have been avoiding living up to their own integrity, there's going to come a price to pay. And society as a whole is going to have to pay a price. And it really is going to come down to those who are connected to themselves, who are connected to their integrity, who are willing to work and take action towards their soul's integrity are going to be rewarded for that. Those who aren't are going to have to pay a fairly serious price. So let's take a look. Saturn and Mercury right now are together in Capricorn. So we're going to have a bunch of other planets going through Capricorn through the year. Saturn is going to stay in Capricorn for a while. And since Saturn is sitting in his own sign, the sign that he really loves, I mean, he has two signs. He has Aquarius, which is the freedom that comes as a result of having burned off all of your karma and done all of your spiritual discipline. Then comes Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, of equality and freedom. That doesn't come as a gift. That comes as a result of all of the work that you've done. So when Capricorn is empowered, like I said, it's either a very challenging issue or it is liberating. This is why you have a lot of people who are worried about the Saturn moon matrix. The fear that David Icke started putting on people, that the planet Saturn with its magical rings is sending an illusion to the planet, to the moon, which then bounces back on Earth and creates this. The moon represents the mind. So I mean, whether he realizes it or not, the symbolism is very clear. Is that so what this indicates him. What this indicates about him is that Saturn is going to create in him a victim mentality. It's going to create fear within him. He's going to fear having to pay the price. Just to let you know, I mean, it's not my intention to badmouth David Icke, but let's not forget how the guy came onto the scene. He came onto the scene saying that he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ and that he was the Son of God. And then he made a bunch of predictions that never came true. And then he repackaged himself into what he is now. He stole Zecharia Sitchin's stuff and then repackaged it and turned it into the reptilian stuff, which is, again, his instinct was correct, but I think there's other stuff going on that is actually clouding his mind so that his delusions and his unconscious narcissism is being projected onto things that are actually happening. Because his instinct is right about the elites. His instinct is right about that we live in a fabricated matrix, but the matrix is created by society, and people in society have been and are being hypnotized. And but fortunately, a lot of people are waking up to that, myself included. Anyway, I kind of forgot what I was saying here. So the idea that Saturn transmits onto the world this matrix, there's some truth to that. But it's only an oppressive matrix if you do not own up to your own integrity and if you do not do the work. And the test that the world is going through right now is that people are being pressured, literally by the government, literally being pressured by the government to make a decision between listening to their own individuated self-empowerment or giving up their authority, giving up their power in order to be accepted by the powers that be and by society as a whole. Society is being completely rewritten. And the collective unconscious, there is an attempt to completely, totally rewrite the collective unconscious. And I'm lucky because I'm single and I have basically no life, and I'm enjoying being alone and doing my own thing and not having to be responsible for anything or anybody else. And I can just do whatever the hell I want, whenever I want, and live wherever the hell I want. And so I'm not feeling it, but I know a lot of people who are. I've got some people that I know, one person in particular I know of almost every time that I speak to her, when the subject comes up, she'll break into tears because she's being ostracized from her family because she's chosen not to take certain medical procedures done, which a lot of people are having done. And even though the threat is waning, we're still being told we have to keep, getting these upgrades. And she, just about every time I talk to her, she cries because she is stigmatized, she is ostracized, she is judged, she's seen as being dirty, as being infectious, all kinds of really crazy things like that. And it's killing her because she's a family person. She loves her family, she loves her nephews and cousins and all that. And so it's really painful for her. I don't have to go through that because I don't got any of that. I mean, my whole family, everybody in my family's passed away, so I don't have any family. I don't have anything like that to worry about. But this is the test. The test that is coming over the world is you have to choose between giving up your freedom, your sense of self, your individuation, in order to be accepted into the matrix. Literally, it is a matrix. Things are starting to fall apart. The whole thing is starting to fall apart now because Saturn is now sitting in his happy sign of Capricorn, where he brings down the gavel of judgment. But as I said to you before, I had to go around and show my, where I was going. People had to, in different parts of the world, have to have passports on their phone to show you their medical history in order to be able to get food at a restaurant or go inside stores or, get on a bus. These kinds of things, that's still going on. And that is the pressure coming from this false matrix that society has created, which is pushing you to become a number and to take away the responsibility for your own health, your own sanity, your own safety. And what I believe is going to happen is that Saturn is going to bring down the judgment. And how that will come about is it will become clear those who have chosen to, out of cowardice, to give up their own self-reliance, self-responsibility, and those who have been willing to go through whatever they need to go through to hold on to what they know to be true about themselves. This is the test. The test is really about that. Can you hold on to your integrity? And if you do hold on to your integrity, Saturn is going to reward you. And those who thought they were getting a pass, those who thought that they were going to be rewarded by the matrix, by doing what they were told, encouraged, guilted into, manipulated into, gaslit into doing, virtue signaled into doing, a lot of them, without getting into specifics, are already waking up to, wow, that was a really bad idea. And some of them are gonna have to pay. Some of them are paying with their lives. Like these decisions that they didn't want to make, they're doing it just to get out of the problem. It's killing them. It's killed a lot of people. Will kill more. And other people are dealing with potentially lifelong health issues. So that's karma, and it's a serious business. So I'm not trying to freak anybody out. If you're healthy, you're happy, everything's fine, you got nothing to worry about. And everybody has an opportunity right now to go deep within, because Saturn may be the most spiritual planet. Jupiter is a spiritual planet. Jupiter does the rituals, but Jupiter likes to give out candy. He likes to give out gifts. He likes to do the spiritual work and then, give the blessings to people in the temple. Saturn says, you got to do your own work. You have to meditate. Saturn slows everything down. That's meditation. Saturn focuses on every single detail. That is meditation. To be able to listen to what has happened inside of you, what is happening inside of you, what you are thinking, what you are feeling. Saturn says you need to analyze what your motives are in every action that you take. You take an action, there is a reaction to that. If you are not conscious, if you are not aware of why you do what you do, the things that you say, the things that you do, the decisions that you make, if you are not consciously aware of the feelings, that's why I keep pushing you guys to talk about your feelings. That's why when people ask a question, I can tell when somebody's not aware of the emotions driving it. They're not aware. They think they're just being curious, and I dig a little bit and I find out this is really about you. That's something that Saturn will do. Saturn, when you come to Saturn and you give some superficial response, he's going to go, okay, shut everything down. Let's analyze that. I'm going to take you to task for what you just said. Let's see how true that is. Whereas as Rahu or Loki, Rahu, if you BS Rahu or Loki, or if you're not aware of your emotional agendas behind the things you do and you say, and you go to Loki and you say something without realizing, he's gonna go, okay, sure, yeah, you go right ahead. You let me know how that works. He's not gonna say anything. He's gonna give you as much rope as you want to hang yourself. Saturn is gonna grab that rope and pull you to him and say, let's take a look at what you just said. Let's take a look at what you just did. But for those that are, and bear in mind that what Saturn wants from you, Saturn wants you not to condemn yourself, not to criticize yourself, but to take full responsibility for everything you say, for everything you do. That sounds like a lot. But like I said, this is why I've been saying for, I don't know how long, for a long time, I've been saying the two most important things in life are to pay attention and put effort. That's Saturn in a nutshell. Because it's true. It's just a basic fact about life. If you pay attention and you put effort, you can be successful at anything. So the other thing I want to say before I open it up is that because Saturn is so strong right now, that this is the time to be putting effort towards whatever it is that you want out of life. If Saturn, like me, Saturn has restricted me, because Saturn is also a planet of restriction. So Saturn is restricting me from, what some of the things that I really want. And I have to really think about it. I have to make a choice. Do I want to stay where I'm at and invest, let's say, in the next 9 months into hunkering down and doing some work and teaching some classes and really get into that? Or do I want to take responsibility for the fact that this isn't my ideal spot? I'm going to travel around the world and look for a new one, because the one I want I can't have, because they've got some. Australia's in serious trouble. Anyway, but this is the time. Saturn is so strong right now. Saturn doesn't give gifts like Jupiter, but Saturn gives what you've earned. If if you get like a CD account, a bank, a savings, CD savings account, you have to invest, and then you can't touch it. You can't touch any of that money for who knows however long. And then after it's been there for a while, it accrues interest, and then you can get that money. Now is the time. If you've invested in yourself, if you've invested in your life, if you've invested in your spiritual practice, now's the time. If you haven't, now is the time to get one of those. And if you have invested, Saturn will give you access to what you've earned, to what you've worked for. If, however, during this time, If you say, and I'm giving, an example, a symbolic example. Instead of investing in yourself, instead of investing in your health, your spirituality, your awareness, instead of doing that, let's say you just went off and wanted to borrow some money and go to Vegas for a few months. This would be the worst time to do that. Because with Saturn involved right now, with the strength of Saturn, you are going to pay a much larger price than you could have imagined. For me personally, I'm just realizing this as I'm talking to you. I mean, an interesting thing has happened to me. As you guys know, I'm pushing 60 almost. And I've been spending a lot of time exercising in the gym, thinking that I've already reached my genetic potential, at this stage in my life, and I am bursting out of my clothes. I'm packing on muscle like I was 30 years old. I'm working out 5-6 days a week. It's like, and I realized because Saturn is really working for me, hard work. I've not only got that, I not only have Saturn is now transiting over my natal Saturn, but I'm also in a Saturn Mahadasha, which means that Saturn is the planet that's lording over my whole chart for the next, whatever it is, 10 or 20 years. I'm entering the general state of Saturn at my age, Saturn. So I've got all this Saturn working for me, and I've got Saturn and Mars that are mutually aspecting each other. So Mars and Saturn together, I've got all this power working for me. And I'm bringing this out not to brag, but to point out to you that Saturn was my enemy the first half of my life. Saturn sits in my 6th house of enemies. I had nothing but enemies, bad luck, restrictions, ill health. So you want Saturn working for you. And Saturn is now shown up, and Saturn is saying to the world, I'm here to work for you. And I am going to bring to justice those that have walked contrary to the path of karma, contrary to the path of dharma or law. Those who have acted contrary to the law, people who have been corrupt, and there's no shortage of corruption. The bankers, the politicians, big pharma, big tech, the Trusted News Initiative. Karma is coming for all of them. I can't say when or how, but now is the time. If you were to stand up for yourself, for your own power, for your own rights, this would be the time to do it. You will benefit from it. You will be empowered. You will be strengthened. Now is the time. If you wanted to work on yourself, you wanted to go and you want to go and finally, get in shape. Trust me, Saturn is behind you 100%. You wanted to now do the spiritual practice you've been wanting to do. You've just been waiting for the right time. Now is the time, because the time, the effort, the attention that you give to yourself, Saturn is going to empower you. Take the time. Patience is Saturn. Take the time to look at yourself. If you haven't done so, take a look at yourself right now and ask yourself, am I being true to my integrity? Am I following my soul? Am I acting out of fear? Because if you are, this is not the time to do it. Now's the time to acknowledge that and to change that. There are things you wanted to change in your life. You wanted to quit smoking. You wanted to whatever the heck it is. Be a better parent or a better spouse or a better friend. You wanted to start your business. Whatever it is, now is the time to acknowledge that and to put the effort towards it. Even if it's, bear in mind, Saturn builds his bridges brick by brick. He goes, he finds the quarry, he finds the mountainside that has the rock that he's looking for, and then he goes and he carves out every single rock, and then he builds that bridge one brick at a time. And when he's done, that bridge will last forever. Now is the time to do the work for things that will last for the rest of your life. So you've got the most powerful, again, if you could pick one planet to have your back, it would be Saturn, among all of them. Jupiter is great. Venus is great. Mercury is great. They're great planets to have in your corner. But the one that will outlast them all will be Saturn. And the one that will never falter for you. If Saturn makes a commitment that I'm going to make this person a king, I am going to empower this person, Saturn will never, ever shift. Saturn is a rock. Now is the time to be looking at yourself, to do the self-improvement, to really dig deep and make those changes if you need to. If now would be a great time if somebody's addicted to alcohol, cigarettes, and you wanted to quit, now's the time, because you will have the discipline and you will have the patience and you will have the ability to weather and tolerate the challenges as they come. Now's the time. Saturn is working for you. All right. So I'm happy to open it up to questions. This is a question and answer. If you do have a question, please write the word question in all caps and then write your question. If you don't have a question but you have a feeling, please write the word feeling in all caps and then share your feeling, your emotion. And of course, I will let you know if you don't do it right. So we have Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He says hello. He is one of my certified astrologers. And you can go to his website, which is Vincent.thunderwizard.com, and you can get a reading from him. He's a great astrologer. He's got a bunch of other things that he offers as well. Let me see. I'm looking for, where's that link? Is that what I want? No. I'm trying to put a link up here, but if you want me to do for you what I'm doing for Vincent and what I'm about to do for Thundra, you can go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com, and if you pass the simple test, I will give you a website, and if you come onto the live stream and say hello, I will tell people to go to your website and get the services that you offer, whatever they are. All right, so I'm not finding that quickly enough, so we'll move on. Thundra Staves Rangel says hello. Thundra, the lightning goddess, you should go check her out. She is also a certified Vedic astrologer for me, but she has also other really cool stuff you should check out as well. Go check out her page. Let me get rid of the spam. These spam bots are really driving me crazy. And then Agent of the Universe, that's not a comment, it's not a question or a feeling, so unfortunately I'm going to move past that. Asto Ella, question. In your book, Rune Shamanism, I'm already in love with this question. By the way, in case you guys don't know it, I've written how many books? 30-something books. You can go to courses.thunderwizard.com. You can also go, I've got the link up further up in both the chat and the description. You can find my books at michaelwilliamdenny.com. And somebody is making me feel good. They've actually read one of my books. She says, in your book, Rune Shamanism, I don't know if that's a he or a she. This person says, in your book, Rune Shamanism, you put a link to a video about a method of destroying negativity with Nauthis, but the address of the link doesn't work. Is it still online? I have no idea. I wrote that book how many years ago? A long time ago. Sorry, I don't know. But now you've given me the opportunity to tell you how to search on my channel. The way you do that is you go to my channel page. So if you don't know how to do that, up in the top bar of YouTube, you type in Thunder Wizard. And you'll see my channel page come up. Click on that, go to my channel page. If you're on a laptop or a desktop and you go to the menu below, you'll see videos about, and you'll see a magnifying glass. Click on it, and then type in whatever search term you want. In this case, type in Nauthiz, and you will see every video that I have made about Nauthiz. And so if you didn't know how to do that, now you do. I don't know if that link is still up. What happened the past year or two, YouTube changed things around, and so they've lost some videos, and some videos the links have changed and blah blah blah. But feel free to search my channel for any of those things. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a great video. I should probably make another one about it because it's so old. Okay, what else? Root question. In which forms do we see ascension judgment? I don't know what you mean by that question. What do you mean in which forms? I tried to, if I'm understanding your question, I explained it. The ascension. See, Saturn comes up and Saturn gives. He gives either he makes judgments. And in his judgments, he will say, in our judgment, we have decided that you have followed your true path, and therefore we are elevating you to the next position. Or he says, in our judgment, you have fallen short. You did not live up to your own potential. You walked away from yourself. You damaged yourself and others, and therefore you are going to be given the opportunity now to work through that negative karma you have created for yourself. So Saturn gives these proclamations, these judgments. So the ascension or the judgment is based on the individual. What do you mean? In what forms? I don't know. You want me to tell you how Saturn is going to empower you or punish you? You figure that out for yourself and you let us know. I tried to do my best to explain it. Hopefully you heard it. I hope so. And of course, this was a while ago, so maybe you wrote the question before I got to it. Agent of the Universe question. I gave up my freedom at first, but I refused to give up any more of my freedom. I was being pressured by my mom to do something we can't talk about. Is it still too late? Is what still too late? It's never too late. Never. It's never too late to own up to whatever. So if what you've already made the choice to do what you chose to do to empower yourself, so this is already something you did, so it's not too late. You're still breathing. You know the ultimate karma has come when you're not breathing anymore. Here's what you need to ask yourself these questions all the time. I ask myself this all the time. Do I have a roof over my head? Yeah. Do I have food in the refrigerator? Yep. Do I have my health? Yep. Am I breathing? Yep. Is my heart beating? Yep. I've got everything I need. I'm good. Now in this abundance of good karma that I just went through, I can now go inward and ask myself, what is important to me? Who am I? How am I betraying my own integrity? And if so, how can I shift that? If not, if I'm meeting the challenge, if I'm overcoming the pressure of the matrix to try and guilt me out of, manipulate me, gaslight me, virtue signal me out of my integrity, if I am standing firm, then I'm good. And this is something you can do on a daily basis. It's never too late. That's the thing everybody should know. Never. Okay. Dharma of Alba, honest feeling. I feel excited about starting my new job and will finally be able to start saving for the Maoshan 5-element forms. I also feel good about putting in the effort to do the practices. That's awesome. I wish you all the best. I'm happy to hear that. Red Star 7311 question. Do you feel that Saturn is a double-edged sword? Obviously you do, or you wouldn't have asked the question. So what do you want me to say? Yes, no? Any tactics on how to aid the crystallization energy of Saturn? while limiting the inertia of the planet. Never would have thought pushing 60. I guess that's a compliment about me. I have to say, I'm feeling pretty good about myself too. And I'm kind of, yeah. As long as I shave my head so you can't see all the gray hair, and I shave my beard so you don't see all the gray hair, and you can't tell. But so I did a pretty good job trying to answer those questions in my disjointed little rant there, my lecture. But the tactics are what I've said. You know, the thing is that Saturn is a planet of practicality. Saturn is a planet of what is practical here and now. And Saturn is about right now, right this second. You know, what ends up happening when you go to jail? You got nothing but time on your hands to sit and think about what you've done and what you would do differently. That's the whole point of jail. It never works, but that's the whole point of it. Saturn will do that. Saturn limits you, puts you in a place where you don't have any distractions. When you're sitting in a jail cell, you don't have to worry about getting up in the morning and going to work. You don't have to worry about anything because you're not going anywhere. Until they, ring the bell and open the door and say, okay, you got your hour now to go into the yard and walk around. You're sitting in your cell the whole time. That's it. So, any tips? Yeah. Go within and listen. Take the time. Saturn takes things very slowly. Saturn is very patient. Saturn is not Mars. Mars wants to do things right now. Mars is very impulsive. Saturn is not impulsive. Saturn says, I'm going to think this through before I do anything. So if you want the benefits of Saturn, study how Saturn acts and then do that. Did I answer your question? Limiting the inertia. So that, I want to talk you out of that. Listen, Saturn is unavoidable. And Saturn isn't creating this. It's not like Saturn says, I'm going to give you this imposed limitation. And he goes, no, I'm just going to, here's what you you created it. You did this. Deal with it. He says, look, but you got to deal with what you created. I didn't do it. You did it. You got to deal with it. So it's not like you have to find ways to limit the inertia. Like the inertia is doing something to you. The inertia isn't doing anything to you. You did it. You have to deal with what you did. That's just the fact, It is what it is. Saturn, if you want to know like a phrase for Saturn, Saturn says, hey man, it is what it is. Now let's deal with it. So what do you want to do? You want, that's somebody in Vegas who's already borrowed $100,000 and he's at the poker table. And somebody says, hey, you owe the house $100,000. You want to stem the inertia, which is like, listen, I don't want to pay my bill yet. Can I borrow some more money? So no, Saturn says, no, man, it is what it is. So stemming the inertia sounds like running away from what you did. Saturn isn't doing anything to you. Now he's giving you the opportunity, because the more mess you make, the worse that it gets. The fact that you're not looking at it doesn't mean that the damage isn't accruing, that the interest isn't accruing, that the debt isn't accruing. That doesn't mean that. It just means that you're not aware of it. So who's the worst person? The guy who says, here's another 10 grand, or the guy who says, hey man, I'm going to cut you off. You're going to have to deal with this before it's too late. Let's deal with it now. So Saturn isn't doing anything. There's no need to limit his inertia. It's about taking full responsibility. You want to know how you want to tip? Take full responsibility for everything. Everything in your life, everything in your childhood, everything in your past life, take full responsibility. I don't know how I created it, but I just know that I did. Because when you take full responsibility, you say, I don't know how I created it, But you are also aware that if I made the mess, I can clean it up. And if I created this negative thing, I can create the positive thing. So taking responsibility, seeing things for what they are, gives you the power. This is why, people don't want to hear me say you're fully responsible for everything in your existence, whether you realize it or not. People don't like hearing that. But the other side is they don't want to be told if you made the problem, that means you can fix it. Don't you want to know that? Or you want to be a victim? So no, you don't have to worry about limiting the inertia, because the inertia isn't working on you. It's your own. You created it. Now you're just, you're going to have to deal with it. And that's positive or negative. If you've worked hard for yourself, all the things that you have invested in and your discipline and all of that, then Saturn shows up and says, hey, you've got a credit. You've got, you don't owe the house anything. You've got a credit of $1,500. Congratulations. It is what it is. Red Star. No, I already read that. Thunderous Staves Rangel question. Can Sade Sati bring Saturn's rewards? Got to be honest with you, I'm not too educated on Sade Sat. And I'm not a big fan of it because there's a lot of things in astrology that are overhyped. And these are things that astrologers use to make money. Again, I don't know enough about Sade Sat to say one way or another. I know that I've been through mine and it's come and it's gone, so I'm not worried about it. I would say don't worry about it. Worry about what you have control over. What you have control over is what you do, what you invest in. Focus on that. But having said that, that's not something I'm really an expert in. I know many people fear this time period, but I'm wondering if it can actually be a time of rewards. So I'm going to say, yeah, of course. Of course, there's always rewards. You're always rewarded for what you do. Always. If you put effort into something, you get rewards from it. That's just the way things work. Yes, I'm aware of that. Thank you, Azto. All right, so somebody's trying to teach me about astrology here. All right. I saw that too, Thunder Staves Rangel. I recently read that Saturn emits twice as much radiation as it takes in from the sun. I read that too, and that's fairly interesting. Saturn gives more than it takes. And that makes perfect sense because Saturn is karma. Saturn is also dharma. Saturn is also bhakti. Saturn is devotion. What Saturn loves, whatever Saturn is, if Saturn comes to you and he stands in front of you and he says, it's time to pay up, and you say, I'm on my way to the temple right now to do a ritual, he'll go, oh, all right, talk to me when you're done. Because nobody respects the work of ritual and devotion more than Saturn. He loves that. In fact, that's his thing, even more so than Jupiter. Saturn says you got to do it. You got to go do the work. You got to go do the rituals. And you got to worship the gods. Saturn is all about that. So that makes sense. When you give out, if Saturn appeared in front of you and said, "Okay, I've got all the stuff that you owe. We're going to work through that," and you say, "I'm on my way to go to the soup kitchen and give and feed the homeless," he'd go, "Okay, sorry, we'll talk afterwards." Giving unconditionally. So if you want to make Saturn happy, here's one way to do it. It's also a great thing in life. And I know people have done it, and I know one guy who did this, and I don't know what else he did, but I know he did this, and I kid you not, he healed himself of terminal liver cancer. Like he had like a month to live or something like that. And whatever else he did, I mean, he even said, I'm not listening to the doctor, I'm living my life. And one of the things he did is, he had done a lot of stuff. He was a really nasty guy. And one of the things he did is that he made sure that every day he did something for somebody else and didn't let them know about it. He said it doesn't count if they know you did it. And so he did something every day for somebody else, behind their back, did something to help them. And he committed to that. He said, for the rest of my life, for every single day, I'm going to do something good for somebody without any, recompense or without any acknowledgement. Healed himself of cancer. He was going to die cancer. So that's Saturn. Saturn gives, but doesn't get any credit for it. Doesn't want any credit for it. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. I'm entering my Saturn Mahadasha tomorrow. Saturn is in Scorpio in my second house. My life has been a difficult struggle up until recently. What effects can I expect from my Saturn Mahadasha? Well, we have to take your age into account. I'm obviously on the second half of my life. So Saturn, here's the thing about Saturn. Saturn, the first half of life, he brings karma. Generally speaking, he brings karma. Second half of life, he brings you the fruits of what you've worked for. And I'm going to be honest with you, I would have to really take a look at your chart and really take a look at the second house. So I'm not going to, I don't want to pull something out of my rear end. You say, my life has been a struggle up until recently. What effects can I expect from my Saturn Mahadasha? So here are general things which you already know. You want to look at where Saturn is. You want to look at where Saturn's signs are. So where is Capricorn, where is Aquarius? And what's really coming to me like big is you need to look at your D9 chart, your Navamsha. So the D9 chart, you have your birth chart here, and then your D9 chart is underneath. The D9 chart is the foundation of the house. So things can be really strong here if you have a strong planet here, but in the D9, if it's weak, then it doesn't really pay off. You can have a planet that's weak in this chart, but if it's strong in this chart, then it looks bad on the surface, but it's actually doing quite well. So you want to take a look at Saturn in your D9 chart, and the same thing, what are the aspects? You want to look at what, one of the reasons why Saturn is working so well for me at the moment is because Saturn is not only in, as somebody pointed out, Saturn is in my sixth house, which gives me, in second half of life, it gives me defeating my enemies. But it's got a mutual aspect with Mars in my third house, which is my Aruda. So when Mars and Saturn are staring at each other, they both just like start. And now Saturn is coming into his own, not only in the transit, but in my life. And so those two guys together are making him very strong. So you have to look at that. Do you have any aspects? Do you have any mutual aspects? All that stuff. So take a look at all that. You're an astrologer, so you should. I trust your judgment more than mine at the moment because, to be honest, the second house is not a house for some reason. I still am trying to figure out the second house. I can tell you about a lot of other houses, 8th house, 3rd house. Second house, I'm still trying to figure out. Azto Ella question. I have, of course, searched your channel, but I have not found that specific video. Could you please explain the method? Well, I don't know what you mean by search the channel. Does that mean you went, clicked the magnifying glass and typed in Nauthies and searched the channel? Does that mean that you went and looked at the playlists? Again, I can't guarantee you that video is still there. because it's been a long time. And I don't want to, it makes me want to go and see if I can find it right now by searching for it. I don't want to do that. So I don't know if you know how to search for search terms within the channel. I just told you how to do that. Did you look at the playlist? If not, the other thing that you can think about doing is here, thunderwizard.com. If you subscribe even at the lowest level, you get access to all of my runes. If you go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com, then there's a whole other rune teaching that goes on there. And it might be in there. I can't guarantee it. So you say you've searched. I don't know what that means. Did you do all of those things? And I can't even guarantee you that it's still there. It's a really old video. Neilzabub, honest feeling. I have been stronger self-love for myself. My health has gotten so much better. My loneliness and isolation from my family and friends, the feeling of self-love and despair is heavy. I feel for you, my friend. Thank you for sharing your feelings with us. Rune, honest feeling. I feel like I have lost so much time to the pandemic, like the past 2 years have been wasted, and I don't know how not to be afraid of COVID/social stigma. So are you saying that you're actually afraid of the virus? Have you had it? I've had it. So according to the CDC, and again, I'm not a fan of a lot of what the CDC has to say, but according to the CDC, and it's amazing that this wasn't blasted on every single news channel. But according to the CDC, the only real immunity that anybody has is natural immunity from having been infected. And it's the same whether you've been jabbed or not. The level of immunity that you have after having recovered from COVID is the same, whether you've gotten the jab or not. And that's the only real immunity that lasts. And so, like one doctor said that COVID was the vaccine we were waiting for. That Omicron was the vaccine we were waiting for. So if you've had Omicron, according to the CDC, you have as much defense against the disease as anybody can have. Jabbed or otherwise. The social stigma, you mean from not being jabbed? So you don't have to be afraid of COVID. The social stigma, I understand that fear. And, you haven't asked for my advice, so I won't give it to you other than, listen to what I've said already about, you either love yourself or you give yourself away in order to be loved by others. And I understand the challenge there and your feelings. Red Star 7311, honest feeling. You answered my question, sir. Okay, that's not a feeling, but I'm glad I answered your question. Chuck Nawadayi, question. How can you get a real representation of where the planets lie within your chart for a beginner in astrology? Go get a reading. Astrology.thunderwizard.com. I mean, you're asking a huge question. A beginner in astrology, does that mean you want to learn astrology? Well, then put the time and effort to learn. I teach Vedic. You should know there's a difference between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. Western astrology being the astrology in the, nobody reads the newspaper anymore. But you used to, when you opened up the newspaper, there was the astrological forecast, and it's, had all the signs in it. So Western astrology is what most people do here in the West. Vedic is East Indian astrology. And Vedic astrology is accurate. It's an actual snapshot of the sky above you, whereas Western astrology is off by 24 degrees. And I talk about that. So where to get it? You want to learn astrology? Go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. or go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com. You asked me, where can a beginner go? I teach Vedic astrology. So there you go. Jameson-san, honest feeling. Integrity can be measured by whether or not we comply with the matrix passport. I feel I can comply and challenge authority. Your stance feels dogmatic and my instinct is to reject. Well, that's an honest feeling, so I can't argue with that. So I honor your bravery in sharing that. Let's see what else. That is not a question. That is not a question. So Alpha and Omega Adventures, welcome to the channel. So the way you ask a question is, if you look above, you'll see people write the word question in all caps, and then they ask me a question. So a question is defined as something that you think I have the answer to that you don't. A question isn't, I'm going to ask a question, but really what I want to do is give my opinion in a passive-aggressive way. I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just letting you know. Those are the rules. If I see you doing that, I'm going to react negatively. So Alpha and Omega, you do have a question, even though, let's see. And I also don't do well with, do you have an opinion on? I don't do well with those questions because you're not asking me about something. I don't do well with questions when you're asking me about what other people say, what other religions say. I don't do well with that. And I don't like it, number one, because it's lazy. You know, asking me of my opinion on something that you know about, that you have an opinion on, it's lazy. It's not interesting to me because on one hand it says that you haven't spent any time on my channel. I have thousands of videos on there, you know, perhaps thousands of hours of video of subjects going very deep. So when it's like you just walked into my class and you don't know what people are studying. You haven't read the material, and you're just going to raise your hand and ask, what do I think about the guy on the other side of campus and what do I think about his class? I'm not saying this to you to make you feel bad because this is the nature of YouTube. There's a lot of just superficial, you go onto a thing and throw out of this and that, and you know, people talk to each other. And this is a library. This channel is a library of information, not only of information, but of practices. And to get the most out of it, I want you to put the time and effort. As I say, the two most important things in life are pay attention and put effort. So you're asking me, some researchers equate the gods and goddesses of Norse mythology and Vedic gods and goddesses with Enlil and Enlil and I don't care what other people do. If you want to know how I feel about Vedic mythology and Norse mythology, you can watch the videos on my channel. I don't just have opinions about it. I've written books on it. I've written books on the comparison between Norse mythology and Vedic mythology, the Norse gods and the Vedic gods. So again, welcome to the channel. You're obviously brand new. You didn't know any better. Go put some time and effort. This channel is a treasure trove of resources that I guarantee you will not find anywhere else. There are some things in here you won't find anywhere else. Put some time and effort into knowing what I teach, then you can ask intelligent questions that'll inspire me to respond. Again, I'm not saying this to give you a hard time, but this is the lesson of Saturn right now. Pay attention, put effort, communicate, interact constructively. Don't be superficial. Saturn is not a superficial planet. So superficiality is getting destroyed right now. If you want to be accepted by the powers that be superficial. That's how they manipulate you, they con you, they stay superficial, they don't go deep. So here I do my best not to do that. Anyway, welcome to the channel. I hope you find what you need here. Jameson-san, honest feeling continued. I feel scared to trust when absolutes dogma presents. I feel like I have to choose between discerning my own integrity and agreeing with you. I've never told you to do that. So, I mean, Jameson, you have that feeling, and I acknowledge that. But I want to give you the opportunity to just think through, when have I ever put you in a position where you had to choose me over something else? When have I ever shamed you for having a different opinion than me? I mean, if I have, let me know. I don't know. It's an honest feeling, so I understand that. So I guess the real question is, how much of that is projection based on your past? How much of that is based on reality? Only you know, because I am a limited individual and I have my own issues and my own projections. And based on my experience with all of my teachers, there's no such thing as a perfect teacher. So if I have failed you in any of those regards, it's very possible, and you have my humble apologies, and I hope that you can find yourself within that. And I will do everything in my power to be a loyal, supportive part of your life, even if you and I disagree. The only thing that I care about is whether or not a student is devoted to themselves and willing to do the work. That's the first thing. Everybody should know. If you become my apprentice, I care about you doing the work. If you're not going to do your own work for yourself, which of course, Jameson, you are doing. But if somebody isn't willing to do the work and they give up on themselves, I'm going to lose interest in working with them. The other thing that I want is for people just to treat me with respect. You can have whatever feelings you want. You can disagree with me. In fact, you can hate my guts as long as you can express that in a respectful way. So those are the only things I want from you. I think you already know that. But I completely understand, and it's obvious that something I've said and done has stimulated you, whether that's because I'm off base or whether that's coming from you. We could discuss that. And, I'm willing to take a look at me if you're willing to take a look at you. Okay, what else? Asto Ellis says yes. To what? I don't know. I must have asked a question. Let's see if I can remember what the question was. Okay, so yes, to what? I don't know. Athamanimous question. My Saturn is in Aquarius in the 4th house. Could this be a good position for me? I think so. If I seek to work from home within my own business? Well, I would need to see a bunch of other things first. Aquarius and Saturn is happy. So when any planet is in their own sign, they're happy. So even if it's, quote, a bad placement, the fact, if Saturn was in another sign that it didn't get along with, might be different. The natural planet for the 4th house is the moon or Venus. Those planets like the 4th house because the 4th house is your home, your comfort, your mother, your nurturing. So Saturn in there, again, I'd have to look at it more deeply, do some more study and some research, but generally speaking, things are going good because Saturn is in its own house. Whether or not that's a place to work from home, I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. I don't get a feeling one way or another because I can't see your whole chart. But generally speaking, that's a good setup. Saturn in his own house there. Let's see. What else? Red Star 7311. Honest feeling. I think. Let's see. Who is this? Root. What was I responding to Root about? I have to go back when people. Anyway, I don't remember. Maybe I was just asking if I had answered your question or not. Where was I? Red Star 7311, honest feeling. I think 2nd house is what you value and, well, that's not an honest feeling. So let's just be clear what an honest feeling is. An honest feeling is I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm happy. It's not an opinion. So you are giving an opinion based on my ignorance at the moment. So you're trying to help me out. I appreciate that, but that's not really what an honest feeling is. Let's see if it benefits me to... Okay, so anyway, if Atham or whoever, if whoever asked about the second house wants to read your answer and benefit from it, they can. Um, Alpha and Omega Adventures, your behavior here is confusing. So you say, pardon me, and then you write the word question, right? Because I told you didn't put the word question down. And then you say, I'm looking for eclectic perspective. So what are you doing? You're justifying. Why are you doing that? You're in my house. I've invited you in my house. You did something, you behaved in a way in my house that I didn't enjoy. You're still welcome in my house. And I basically said, could you not walk into my living room with your shoes on? I don't need you to then go back, take your shoes off, sit down, and then explain to me why you... It doesn't matter why. So doubling down and explaining why you did something I didn't like, it shows your insecurity. It doesn't benefit you. Okay? So I understand that, but I don't need you to do that. You don't need to defend yourself or explain yourself. It's distracting. It's bothersome. It's bad contact functioning. It's disrespectful, and I know you don't mean it that way. So, and then you're doubling down about, I'm not inquiring about the Enki and Enlil. I mean, find one video where I talk about Enki and Enlil. Find one. If you want to talk about Enki and Enlil, go talk on the channels that talk about that. I don't do that here. All right, what else? Oh, God, Alpha and Omega, please, enough already. Thundra Staves Rangel. Question, is Shiva connected to Saturn at all? Yeah. Shiva has a name, Mahakal. Mahakala? Yeah, there's Mahakala and Mahakali. Now, Kali is associated with Saturn exclusively. Shiva is associated with multiple planets, but he has a strong association with Saturn. So he is Mahakala. He is the great time. So yes, to answer your question. He is associated with the sun, but yes, he definitely. I mean, if somebody doesn't understand that, that Shiva is Mahakala and that is Saturn, then, well, I can understand, though it's a confusing, complicated science, astrology. All right, that's somebody's opinion. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Honest feeling. I'm feeling very lonely, and I want to be seen and accepted. I acknowledge you for your bravery and your vulnerability. I also understand those feelings and have felt those myself. All right, nothing else? I don't see any other questions here. Okay, so listen, I understand some of you who have responded to feeling that this is dogmatic. Saturn is dogma, by the way. If there's any planet that is dogmatic, it is Saturn, for sure. Saturn says follow the rules or you're screwed. Jupiter says that's okay if you break the rules, I still love you. Venus says what rules? Rahu says rules, when can I break them? And Ketu says, it's all nonsense. Rules, no rules. Come on, enough already. So we are dealing with this power. This power of Saturn wants to focus on the rules. The difference, and I think this is where it can be misunderstood. And I understand that. I myself am reactive to dogma. I don't like being told what to do. As you can tell, I don't like people coming on my channel and not doing what I like. So I don't like people telling me what to do either. But the thing about, let's talk about Saturn in terms of harsh teachers. So one of the things in Western society, especially now modern times, I mean, I am getting to that age where I can remember when things were different. Like I can remember when there was no such thing as internet. There was no such thing as cell phones. There was no such thing as even answering machines. It sounds like ancient history. But there was a time when if you wanted to call somebody on the phone, you picked up a phone that was on the wall, and there was this big, this big, stretchy cord on the end of it, and you pulled it off the wall, and you stuck it to your ear, and then you had to dial it, and then you had to wait for somebody to answer, and then is so and so home, and if they weren't home, you were done. If you said, can I leave a message? And they said no, you couldn't leave a message. If you called up and somebody else was on the phone, it was a busy signal. Nothing you could do. You couldn't send a text. There was nothing. And if nobody was home, the phone could ring for hours. Just ring. Would never end. It would just ring. If you sat there for a half an hour letting the phone ring, the phone would ring for a half an hour. And I remember when if you wanted something, I forgot why I got lost in that. What was it that I wanted to say? Oh, so I remember a time when when you wanted to learn something from somebody, you had to physically go to their establishment. The only way to communicate with somebody was either on the phone or with snail mail, like a letter in the mail. That was it. Or physically in person. So you got up off your ass and you went to go see somebody. And if you wanted to learn from a traditional teacher, like if you wanted to learn from a karate master or a kung fu master, you went, and before it became what it is now, which is it's just a business where people make crap loads of money doing it. Before then, when it was this, strange thing, you walked in, and the teacher, if you said, I want to learn Kung Fu, the teacher says, good. Go stand in the corner on one foot. And if you asked why, he'd say, there's the door, sorry, I can't teach you. You had to follow the rules. And it wasn't about you figuring it out. And the reason he was doing that, like if you said, I want to learn Kung Fu, and he says, go stand in the corner on one foot, and you said, why? And if he said, I'm sorry, I can't teach you, there's the door, thank you for coming. He's not doing that to punish you. He's doing that because he knows the only way that you're going to understand rooting and power is if you go and do it. And I'm going to tell you how to do it. Go do it. Don't ask any questions. And that was something that we just accepted way back when. Nowadays, it's a lot easier to ask questions. What am I going to get for this? And I'm paying you money and all that, blah, blah, blah. But Saturn doesn't do that. Saturn just says, here's the deal. Do it or don't do it. And he's not doing it to punish you. This is the difference between an abusive person who controls you. So this is something that Saturn wants to point out. And this is what I want people to think about. Among other things, which is that the people who've tried to control you, who were narcissistic, who were abusive, they just want to control you for their own narcissistic supply, for their own ego. They're not interested in empowering you in any way. But when Saturn says, here are the rules, he wants you to find your power within yourself. And that is my intention here today. If I come off and I push people's buttons in the wrong way, or if they have a negative reaction to me, whether I'm doing things properly or improperly is beside the point. My intention is to give you the power within yourself so that you can determine within yourself. And I think that's why I'm saying do not let anybody else tell you what to do. If you end up complying with something because you've chosen to do so and it benefits you, like if I were to get on a plane, You know, if I wanted to, let's say, go to Costa Rica, I've got a thing. I'm not wearing any masks. You know, I've made some decisions. I'm just not going to anymore buy into any of the garbage that's going on. But if I wanted to get on a plane and go to Costa Rica, I would wear a mask. I would comply because I would be getting something out of it. But that's different than me cowering and doing it because somebody's telling me to do it. And what Saturn wants from everybody is that you have your own truth within you that you follow, and nothing and nobody else can take it away from you. You choose what you decide to do and what you don't decide to do. But definitely, cowering and letting other people tell you what's going on out of fear or out of a desire to be accepted and loved will backfire. And that is one of the lessons. It's not a punishment. It's just that's the way it is. It is what it is. So, anyway, take that for what it is. A couple more questions came in here. Honest feeling. I feel like the whole C situation has forced me to look at myself real hard, and I appreciate this a lot. I have that same experience. Thunderstave Rangel question. Why do we worship Jupiter to calm down Rahu if Rahu ultimately has to follow Saturn's lead? Saturn and Rahu actually work together very well. Saturn and Rahu are in the same camp. They live in the same neighborhood, even though they're at odds with each other, because Saturn says you have to follow the rules and Rahu says, rules? What rules? But actually they're both very realistic. See, Jupiter is not realistic. Jupiter is head in the clouds, fantasy. I'm just, whatever makes, Jupiter creates dreams. And so sometimes Jupiter can be unrealistic. Saturn and Rahu are both extremely realistic, and they're all about practical, what's true, what's real. Is this what? The whole time I've been talking to you, there's been a banana peel behind me. Anyway, I was supposed to throw that away, obviously. But Jupiter calms down Rahu because Jupiter calms down Rahu specifically most when Jupiter goes retrograde. When Jupiter goes retrograde, Jupiter turns into Thor, the lightning god, and Rahu and Loki both. In the myths, Loki gives all of the gods grief, and he berates them, and he throws open their dirty laundry to the whole world, and won't listen to anybody until Thor comes in. And when Thor says, sit down and shut up, Loki sits down and shuts up. Because the lightning god has that power over Rahu. So that's really more about that. So, but Jupiter does calm down Rahu. But why? If ultimately Rahu doesn't have, Rahu does have to follow Saturn because everybody has to follow Saturn. Because Saturn is the judge. Everybody has to listen to the judge. But Rahu will appeal. Rahu will make, can I have a sidebar? And they'll make a plea bargain. When Rahu and Saturn work together and they're working together, Rahu has the ability to get Saturn to back off if Rahu can help Saturn bring about something practical in reality. So when Rahu and Saturn, in other words, like I said, Saturn, when he builds a bridge, it takes him 100 years because he goes out there by himself with a cart and with a chisel and a hammer, and he hammers out all of the bricks, loads them onto and takes them one by one. And Rahu says, oh my God, that is taking so much time. He says, if I build this machine that does this and does that, as long as Saturn goes, okay, as long as you're actually using all of the bricks one by one and you can do it 1,000 times faster, if it's going to get, okay, I'll do that. They can combine together to be very creative. Rahu and Saturn actually is innovation. Because innovation is like, when we come out with new phones and stuff because they're more practical, we can get more done with them. So if Rahu can convince Saturn, I can get more work done if you let me bring in this innovation, Saturn can be convinced of that. But that's not the same as Rahu going up against the lightning god, which is this right here. If you want to learn how to bring demons down with your bare hands, that's this, which is maoshan.thunderwizard.com. And I don't know why I don't have that link up either. Why don't I have that link up? It's too late. What else? Judy White, honest feeling. I feel very confused about my life's direction. I can understand that. I'm hoping Saturn will bring clarity to my mind. Is there a time clarifying period, weeks or months? So that's a feeling followed by a question. I don't know. That's. I just want to reflect back to you kind of the desperation in your question. In other words, if I tell you, oh, the time clarifying period is exactly 3 weeks and 1 day, then you're going to go, oh, all right, in 3 weeks and 1 day. If I tell you, no, it's going to take 10 years, you're going to go, oh my God, 10 years? So your need for me to tell you exactly how long it's going to take doesn't serve you. What will serve you is if you follow Saturn's lead, slow down, go within, don't have any expectations, and say to yourself, okay, let's determine what it is I really want. So for that, I wouldn't worry so much about Saturn. I would go onto this channel and look for, I'll write it down here for you, the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. If you don't want to buy that book, which I think it's, of all of my books, that's the best one. It's the shortest one. It's really a booklet. But if you can master it, you won't have to worry about anything in life. If you don't want to do that, you can go onto my channel and you can listen to me read it. But you have to know how to search within the channel. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Finding out your soul desire is more important. It's not about Saturn preventing you. You can figure that out whenever. And Saturn wants to help you guys. Saturn just says, stop, listen, pay attention. And treat things, Saturn is heavy. So he says, treat things with the respect they deserve. You don't know where your life is going? Instead of being desperate and afraid, and Saturn says, wait a minute, you're not respecting the process here. Stop. Stop for a second, take a deep breath. You have value. You have worth. Don't minimize yourself. Saturn will get upset. How dare you minimize yourself? You are a human being. You are a God an immortal being in flesh. Give that the weight it deserves. Running around like a chicken with your head cut off, wondering when is the thing going to get. You're completely, totally walking. I'm speaking as Saturn now. You're completely, totally walking away from your value and your worth. Stop doing that. Value who you are. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, I am a spiritual being. I am an infinite being of light. I know what I want to do. I am going to figure that out. And I'm going to calmly and with faith in myself and with hope and with aspiration, I'm going to say, what is it that I want for myself? I don't know right now. I'm going to keep meditating on it. And it'll take however long it takes. And if it takes a week, then it takes a week. If it takes a month, it takes a month. I deserve to take however long it takes. See what I mean? That's the attitude that Saturn wants to give you. Not the one you're giving me, which is, how long is it going to take? I got to figure it out. He's putting pressure on you. Saturn puts pressure on you because he wants you to stop. Breathe and take a moment. The thing about Saturn is if you fight him, he gets heavier. The more that you struggle, the heavier he becomes. You know, the way that boa constrictors kill their prey is they wrap around the prey and they squeeze at, they don't squeeze like and let go and squeeze and let go. They squeeze at, at one strength. And they wait for their prey to exhale because you have to exhale in order to inhale. When they exhale, they squeeze tighter, squeeze tighter, squeeze tighter. It's like a vice. And that's what's happening right now. Saturn sits on you. He weighs on top of you. And when you start, he gets heavier and heavier and heavier. She's saying, stop. Listen. Pay attention. And when you stop and you stop struggling and you listen, then he backs off. And he says, that's all I wanted. I just wanted you to stop for a moment and pay attention. This is valuable. This is important. Give it the time it deserves. What else? All right, there's somebody's opinion. I didn't ask for that. There's another opinion, and that's great that you have them. What else? But that's not a question. That's not a question either. That's not a question. Very good. All right, so no more questions. So that's it for me, guys. Again, you've got all these links over here. And yeah, I've done all the business I'm going to do for this one. All right, so that's it for me, guys. I wish you all the best. And yeah, I'm now excited. I have to be honest with you. I knew I was going into was going into a Saturn Mahadasha. And you hear so many horrible things about Saturn. And I didn't know if that was going to be positive or negative. But since I've gotten into the Saturn Mahadasha, and now I feel the Saturn kicking in. When I do what Saturn wants, I get a lot of benefit from it. And what Saturn wants is for me to work hard. Saturn and Mars together, go to the gym every day and lift as much as I possibly can. They love that. So listen to what Saturn wants from you. Be willing to shift and do something different. And I believe that you can benefit from this. All right. That is not a question either. That is yeah. Anyway, bear in mind again, guys, this is a question and answer. Anything other than that is not what I'm looking for. All right, guys, I wish you all the best. Have a great evening wherever you are, and I will see you guys all very soon.